This is Joe Biden. On April 14th, 2022, he visited North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro. While there, he was given a tour by Dean of the College of Engineering, Robin Koger. Here's part of their conversation.
And there are a whole range. They're not one little box. There's a whole range of universities.
Believe me, I bet I've been to more than you have.
I bet you may have. Well, I don't know. We'll compare notes.
So Biden interrupted Dean Koger to brag that he's been to more universities than her.
And the assumption is that unless you are at a significantly endowed university with a long pedigree and so on, that the students don't have the capacity to do the work. But I've never believed that.
Oh, well, we know quite better than that, so you're right.
No, but you know, let me just talk for a second. Mm-hmm. I'm a professor.
You are the president. That's all that we need.
No, I'm Professor Biden from Penn.
You gotta love that Biden snapped at a woman, excuse me, a woman of color, simply for trying to add to the conversation.
No, but you know, let me just talk for a second. Mm-hmm. I'm a professor.
But even if you're the professor, Dean Koger outranks you, so show some respect. Anyway, later that day, Biden gave a speech and spoke more about this so-called professorship.
I've been on a lot of university campuses. Matter of fact, for 4 years, I was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania. And this is really an impressive place.
So not only did Biden claim that he's a professor, but he was a full professor. And this isn't the first time he's made this dubious claim.
But by the way, I'm in a much different position when I got out of teaching. When I got out of the United States Senate, instead of taking a Wall Street job, and they're not bad, I'm not making them bad, but instead of doing the things that I never did before, I figured I wasn't going to change all these years of what I was comfortable doing. So I became a teacher. I became a professor, but here's the deal.
So Biden claimed that he didn't want a Wall Street job, whatever the hell that would consist of. So instead, Biden became a teacher/professor when he left the United States Senate. Which means that Biden is forgetting that he left the Senate to become the vice president for 8 years, which is just typical.
When I got out of the United States Senate.
So by now you're probably thinking, how the hell was Joe Biden a professor? Well, to figure that out, let's go back into history a little bit. In February 2017, it was announced that Biden was going to join the University of Pennsylvania under the title of Benjamin Franklin Presidential Practice Professor, and was going to be leading something called the Penn-Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement that was going to be based out of Washington, D.C. Soon after, Kate Bedingfield, his spokesperson, announced that Biden would not be teaching a course, and this left people scratching their heads. The Daily Pennsylvanian reported, 2 weeks after the announcement that former Vice President Joe Biden will join Penn as a professor, administrators, professors, and politically minded students alike are still confused about the nature of his role at the university. But apparently, the person most confused about Joe Biden's role at the university is Joe Biden himself.
Well, the work you're doing is important, and it's happening all across the country. I was up at MIT and at the University of Pennsylvania. I used to teach.
Except again, Biden was never a teacher at Penn, nor did he ever teach a course at Penn. But for Biden, lying is what he does best. Like when he claimed that he graduated at the top of his class at Syracuse College of Law.
I think I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class.
But in fact, he attended on a half scholarship and graduated 76th out of a class of 85. Then there's the time he claimed that during his youth, he was arrested for protesting civil rights. And then he was arrested again in South Africa when trying to see Nelson Mandela. Then there's the time that Biden suggested that he opposed the Iraq War from the beginning. And then there's this claim that he made to Charlemagne the God.
I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run.
No, they didn't.
Anyway,
and if we
I
don't
used to drive an 18-wheeler, man.
No, he didn't. Then there's this claim.
I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping, traveling with him. We traveled 17,000 miles when I was vice president. I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, it's not a fact. nor is anything that comes out of his mouth. But I digress. We'll be right back. So what exactly did college professor and congenital liar Joe Biden do at Penn if he never taught a course? Apparently not much. While Biden was a professor, he made around a dozen appearances at university events, including having several conversations with the president of the University of Pennsylvania, Amy Gutmann. Here's Gutmann introducing Biden to the stage at one of these events in March 2018.
Today, we will enjoy a conversation with one of our nation's foremost statesmen. If there ever were somebody who needed no introduction, I think you'll agree he's the one.
Oh man, someone was angling for a job in the Biden administration. Another event at Penn featured Biden promoting Promise Me Dad, his 2017 book. Not sure what a book about Joe Biden's son has to do with diplomacy and global engagement, but whatever. According to the Daily Pennsylvanian, the closest he came to teaching was when he delivered a single lecture to Wharton graduate students on February 28, 2018, in a course taught by William Lauder, who you might know as the executive chairman of Estee Lauder. But that hardly qualifies as teaching, especially if it's Joe Biden giving the lecture, so no, Biden was never a teacher at Penn. In July 2019, it was reported by the Philadelphia Inquirer that between 2017 and early 2019, Penn had paid Professor Biden over $900,000. According to higher education experts, the school was likely paying for the prestige of associating with a former vice president and senator who had burnished his reputation as a global figure. And while paying Joe Biden nearly $1 million ultimately doesn't seem like it was beneficial to students or even to school itself, it certainly was to the university president. Because after Biden took office, he nominated Amy Gutmann to be the US ambassador to Germany. In other words, Gutmann hired Biden and got him paid almost $1 million. And to return the favor, he gave her an ambassadorship. Cronyism? Nah, nothing to see here, guys. Anyway, when Biden touts his professorship, in a lot of ways it's demeaning to actual professors and teachers.
Matter of fact, for 4 years, I was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
No, he was an honorary professor. And regardless, it wasn't even for 4 years, because the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement didn't officially open until February 2018. And in the following year, after he announced his run for president, Biden took a leave of absence from Penn. Kind of pointless to take a leave of absence from an institution you were largely absent from in the first place, but whatever. In other words, from the time he was named a professor to the time he launched his presidential campaign, it was 2 years and 2 months, not 4 years. And he was still paid almost $1 million. And people wonder why Ivy League college tuition is so friggin' high. Anyway, that's it for now. Be sure to check out these videos that you probably missed. Be sure that you're still subscribed to the channel, and I hope to see you next time. If there is a next time.